The lunch tray clattered against the cafeteria floor. Sarah Mitchell's books scattered across the tile as Zach Carter's hand tightened around her collar, lifting her slightly off balance. 300 students fell silent. Phones rose in unison, screens glowing like a constellation of judgment. "Scholarship trash doesn't sit at our table," Zach's voice carried across the cafeteria, echoing off walls plastered with championship banners. His teammates flanked him, Tyler Webb and Marcus Stone, matching Letterman jackets catching the fluorescent light, matching smirks carved into their faces. At Ridgemont High in Boulder County, Colorado, the quarterback writes the rules, and Zach Carter had been writing them for 3 years straight. Mayor's son, 4.0 GPA. College scouts watching his every game. Untouchable. Sarah didn't fight back, didn't cry out, didn't beg. Her body shifted as she fell, weight distribution perfect, neck muscles protected, face angled directly toward the security camera mounted above the lunch line. The crowd saw a scared new girl going down hard. They didn't see her left hand brush against her jacket pocket. Didn't hear the soft double click of a recording device activating. In the next 20 minutes, everyone would realize she'd been documenting everything, building something none of them could see yet. But right now, at 11:42 a.m. on this ordinary Tuesday, Zach Carter had absolutely no idea he was constructing his own case. One photograph, one witness statement, one digital timestamp at a time. 3 weeks earlier, Sarah had walked through Ridgemont's main entrance carrying a worn backpack and the quiet demeanor of someone trying desperately not to be noticed. Transfer student. Scholarship recipient. The kind of kid who ate lunch alone and avoided eye contact in crowded hallways. Her first encounter with Zach happened within an hour. He'd shouldered past her in the junior hallway, sending her notebooks cascading across the polished floor. No apology, no acknowledgement, just the casual cruelty of someone who'd never faced consequences. Sarah had knelt to gather her scattered papers, and that's when something strange happened. She'd pulled out her phone, not to text or check social media, but to photograph her damaged locker from multiple angles. The bent metal, the scratched paint, the way the lock mechanism had been deliberately jammed. Why would anyone document minor hallway vandalism with such precision? By evening, Sarah was working her shift at Miller's Diner on the edge of town, serving coffee to truckers and taking orders in that same quiet voice. During her break, she sat in the back booth with a small spiral notebook, writing in neat, numbered entries that looked less like a teenager's diary and more like something else entirely. Entry 4, October 2nd. Verbal harassment, main hallway, 08:15 a.m. Subject 1 initiated contact. No intervention from staff present. The language was clinical, detached, almost professional. Tyler Webb found her Instagram that same week. 23 followers, mostly generic landscape photos, and posted a screenshot to his story with the caption, "When your kicks are from goodwill." Within 2 hours, the post had been shared across 4 different group chats. Ridgemont's social hierarchy moved fast, and Sarah was already at the bottom. She'd screenshot the post, saved it to a folder on her phone labeled Evidence Day 4. Not screenshots or receipts or any of the terms normal teenagers used. Evidence. The verbal attacks escalated quickly. Zach's authority was absolute when he declared that scholarship students should use the back stairs to avoid contaminating the main building flow. Students actually listened. Sarah found herself redirected daily, surrounded by laughter that felt orchestrated. She recorded every interaction on her phone, held it casually as if checking messages, while Zach's voice came through crystal clear. Move it, charity case. Real students need to get through. When Marcus accidentally knocked her semester project off the desk during AP History, sending 30 pages of research scattering across the classroom floor, Sarah didn't react with anger or tears. She photographed each damaged page, making sure to include small white cards in the frame, cards with handwritten dates and times that Mr. Harrison noticed but didn't quite understand. Why would someone photograph homework with timestamp cards? If watching innocent students get targeted by untouchable athletes makes your blood boil, smash that like button and subscribe. Because this investigation is just getting started, and you won't believe what she's been collecting. The social media campaign intensified during week 2. A fake account appeared, Ridgemont Truth Teller, posting memes about scholarship beggars who couldn't afford soap. The account tagged Sarah in every post, ensuring maximum visibility across the student body. Sarah downloaded each post, preserved the original metadata, added everything to her growing collection. Evidence Day 12 Digital Harassment. She'd found an ally by accident. Emma Reyes, a freshman volleyball player, had been watching Sarah in the library one afternoon when she overheard something unusual. Sarah was talking to another student, a junior named Jake, who'd witnessed the hallway incident, and her questions weren't emotional. They were structured. Can you write down exactly what you saw? Include the time, the location, and whether the security camera on the east wall had a clear view. Use phrases like "I observed" rather than "I think," and note whether any staff members were present. Emma had approached cautiously afterward. "Why do you talk like a lawyer?" Sarah's smile had been tired. "I just want things documented properly." But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about this girl. Sarah taught her how to structure witness statements, how to preserve digital evidence, how to note environmental details that might matter later. The kind of knowledge that went far beyond what a 17-year-old transfer student should possess. Mr. Harrison, the history teacher who'd witnessed the project incident, discovered Sarah's notebook by accident during class. She'd left it open on her desk while answering a question at the board. The entries were formatted like legal brief citations, complete with case reference numbers and evidentiary categorization. When he'd gently asked about it after class, Sarah's answer had been carefully neutral. "I'm just organized. Helps me keep track of things." But Harrison had spent 20 years teaching. He knew the difference between organization and preparation. This was preparation for something specific. The locker vandalism happened on day 19. Spray paint across the metal surface. Trash. Sarah had arrived early enough that the halls were still empty, giving her time to photograph the damage from 6 different angles, each showing different lighting conditions and perspectives. She'd even included a ruler in several shots, for scale like crime scene documentation. That same afternoon, she'd filed a formal complaint with Ms. Chen, the school counselor. Not an emotional outburst, not a tearful breakdown. A formal, structured complaint, using language that sounded like it had been drafted by someone with legal training. "I'd like to file a report regarding systematic harassment under Title IX provisions. I'm requesting a copy of your submission to administration for my records." Ms. Chen had blinked in surprise. Most students didn't know Title IX existed, let alone how to reference it in official complaints. The complaint never made it past Athletic Director Bill Crawford. He'd intercepted Ms. Chen in the hallway, glanced at the report, and dismissed it immediately. "New student adjustment issues. Carter's a good kid, just high spirits. Let's not make mountains out of molehills." The investigation was dead before it started. Or so Crawford thought. David Kim from the school paper had noticed the patterns too. As student journalist, He'd been tracking an unusual spike in transfer activity among athletes. 3 star players who'd mysteriously changed schools mid-semester over the past 2 years, all landing at Ridgemont, all with disciplinary records that seemed to have vanished in transit. He'd approached Sarah carefully in the library. "I'm working on a story about bullying. Would you be willing to talk?" Sarah's response had surprised him. If someone had documented evidence of pattern behavior across multiple incidents, how would the student press handle that information? "What's your verification process?" Not, "Help me," or "Please write about this." She was asking about journalistic methodology, about evidence standards and publication procedures. David had left that conversation convinced Sarah Mitchell knew something he didn't. Something bigger than typical high school drama. The cafeteria incident 3 days later confirmed it. Marcus had tripped over his own feet while walking past Sarah's table, sending his lunch tray flying. The collision sent Sarah's own tray crashing to the floor, and the entire cafeteria had erupted in laughter. Zach's crew had surrounded her table within seconds, phones out, recording her humiliation for posterity. But Sarah had landed in a very specific position. On her back, slightly angled, with Marcus's extended leg clearly visible in the background. The security camera mounted on the south wall would have captured everything. The deliberate trip, the forced collision, the calculated nature of the attack. Coach Reynolds, the wrestling coach who'd been on lunch duty, had helped Sarah up. He'd noticed something immediately. The way she'd absorbed the fall. The precise weight distribution. The controlled breathing, despite obvious impact. "You train somewhere?" he'd asked quietly. "Just clumsy," Sarah had replied, brushing food off her light blue sweater. But Reynolds had coached competitive martial arts for 15 years before coming to Ridgemont. He knew ukemi when he saw it, the Japanese art of falling safely. That hadn't been clumsiness. That had been training. He'd mentioned it to another teacher later. "That Mitchell girl, the way she took that fall, that was judo breakfall technique, perfect form." The teacher had shrugged. "Maybe she's just athletic." But Reynolds couldn't shake it. Why would someone with obvious defensive training never fight back? Why endure systematic harassment when you clearly had the skills to end it? Sarah's backpack had partially unzipped during the cafeteria incident, and Tyler had gotten a glimpse of what was inside before she'd quickly closed it. Not textbooks or makeup or any of the usual teenage accessories. A small professional-grade camera, the kind used for documentation and surveillance. He'd mentioned it to Zach later, in the locker room after practice. "Did you see what was in her bag? Like actual spy equipment." Zach had laughed it off. "Scholarship kids probably steal stuff and resell it. Don't worry about it." But Marcus had been quieter. "What if she's recording us?" "So what?" Zach had thrown his practice jersey in the hamper with casual confidence. "Who's gonna believe her? My dad's the mayor. Tyler's uncle runs the police department. Crawford has our backs. She's nobody." Marcus hadn't looked convinced. "Yeah, but didn't you have something like this happen at Lincoln Academy? Before you transferred here?" The locker room had gone very quiet. "That was different," Zach had said finally. "That kid didn't have any proof. It was his word against mine, and we know how that ended." Tyler had grinned. "Exactly right. That's the third one this semester who thought they could make trouble. They all figure it out eventually. Shut up or transfer out." They'd left the locker room laughing, completely unaware that their conversation had been recorded by Jake, the IT student who maintained the security system and had started keeping his own logs after noticing Sarah's unusual questions about camera coverage and digital file retention. The pieces were connecting, but nobody except Sarah could see the full picture yet. 2 days after the cafeteria incident, Sarah met Emma privately in the library's study room. She'd brought a notebook and walked Emma through proper documentation techniques with the patience of someone who'd done this many times before. When you write down what you saw, use specific language. Write, "I observed," not, "I think." Include exact quotes if you remember them. Note the time down to the minute if possible. And describe the location precisely. Don't just say hallway. Say second floor east hallway, near the AP biology classroom entrance. Emma had listened carefully, taking notes. "You're really good at this. Why?" "I read a lot." Sarah's deflection was practiced, smooth, but Emma wasn't entirely convinced. There was something almost rehearsed about Sarah's instructions, like she'd given this exact speech before, to other people, in other places. Drop a comment below. What type of evidence do you think she's gathering? Have you ever witnessed this at your school? The escalation came during passing period the next morning. Zach's crew had surrounded Sarah near her locker, not touching, but creating a wall of bodies that blocked her movement. Physical intimidation without technically breaking any rules. Tyler had leaned close enough that his breath moved strands of her orange braids. "Why don't you just transfer already? Make it easier on everyone." Sarah's response had been barely above a whisper, but her phone, held at chest level, caught every word. "I'm not going anywhere." Marcus had stepped closer, and that's when Sarah's unusual composure really became visible. No shaking, no tears, no fear response at all. Just steady green eyes that tracked each person's position with the analytical precision of someone conducting an assessment. Tyler had grabbed her notebook in a sudden move, tearing pages loose before Sarah could react. The papers fluttered to the ground like wounded birds, but Sarah hadn't lunged for them, hadn't screamed or fought or demanded their return. She'd simply watched, memorizing faces, mentally noting the time and location and witness count. Tyler had felt unnerved by her calmness. "What's wrong with you? Why don't you ever fight back?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the late bell rang and the crowd dispersed. Mr. Harrison had collected the torn pages after the hallway cleared. He'd expected diary entries or homework assignments. What he'd found instead looked like documentation from a legal case file. Time-stamped entries, witness identification codes, cross-referenced incident numbers, language that belonged in a courtroom, not a high school notebook. He'd confronted Sarah privately after class, holding the pages carefully. "These look like case notes. Sarah, what exactly are you doing?" "Just organizing my thoughts." Her smile hadn't reached her eyes. Harrison had made a decision in that moment. If the administration wouldn't protect this student, he'd start keeping his own record. He began carrying a small notebook, documenting every incident he witnessed, every ignored complaint, every time Crawford shut down a legitimate concern about athlete behavior. He didn't know it yet, but he was building parallel evidence that would eventually become crucial. David Kim's article published that Friday. Are Ridgemont athletes above the rules? It was carefully worded, avoiding specific names, but anyone who attended the school knew exactly who he was writing about. The piece documented a pattern of disciplinary incidents that mysteriously disappeared from official records. Transfer students with troubling histories who arrived with clean slates. Teachers pressured to adjust grades and excuse absences. The backlash was immediate. By Monday morning, David had been called to the principal's office 3 times. Zach had cornered him after second period, standing close enough to be threatening without technically making contact. "You know my dad's on the school board, right? One phone call and your college recommendation letters disappear." Keep that in mind before you write any more garbage. David had felt his stomach drop, but then his phone had buzzed with an encrypted message from an unknown number. Document his threats. Exact words. This is evidence. The message had come from Sarah, though David wouldn't confirm that until much later. She was building something methodical, bringing others into the process without revealing the full scope of what she was constructing. The nurse's office visit happened on day 23. Sarah had come in with a bruised arm, another hallway accident, another convenient collision that left physical evidence. The school nurse had started the standard documentation process, photographing the injury for her records. Then Sarah had made an unusual request. Could you include a ruler in the photograph, for scale, and maybe take shots from multiple angles with better lighting? The nurse had paused, marker hovering over the incident form. You know medical evidence protocol? I just want it documented properly. Sarah's voice remained steady, clinical. In case it matters later. The nurse had complied, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this 17-year-old scholarship student understood chain of custody procedures better than most adults. The gym incident came 3 days later. Basketball unit in PE's class. Zach had been showing off for the college scout who'd stopped by to watch practice, and Sarah had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or maybe exactly the right place, depending on perspective. The collision had looked accidental. Zach driving for a layup, Sarah crossing the court to retrieve an errant ball. The impact sent her sprawling across the polished hardwood floor. But Coach Reynolds had seen something nobody else noticed. The way Sarah had rolled. The perfect distribution of impact across her shoulder and back. The controlled protection of her head and neck. That wasn't luck or natural instinct. That was hundreds of hours of training. That's not beginner falling, Reynolds had muttered to his assistant coach. That's advanced ukemi, competition-level technique. Sarah's phone had clattered across the floor during the fall, screen lighting up. Tyler had reached it first, curiosity getting the better of him. The screen showed a recording app. Active, with 47 previous recordings saved in a folder structure that made Tyler's stomach drop. File names scrolled past. Incident Day 8, Incident Day 15, Incident Day 21. Holy cow, Tyler had breathed. She's been recording everything. Zach had grabbed the phone, trying to delete the files, but they wouldn't delete. Cloud backup synchronization. Professional-grade evidence protection. The kind of setup that required technical knowledge and resources beyond a typical teenager's capabilities. Marcus had backed away slowly. Dude, what if she's not just some random student? What if she's like, working with someone? So what? Zach's confidence had wavered slightly. Who's gonna believe scholarship trash over the mayor's son? But the seed of doubt had been planted. Sarah relied on discrete recording technology that captured everything. If you need reliable evidence documentation tools for personal safety, secure devices with timestamp features ensure your truth gets heard when it matters most. Ms. Chen made a discovery that same week while organizing student files. Sarah Mitchell's folder contained something unusual. Encrypted email correspondence with an address ending in .gov. Federal government domain. Chen had stared at the screen for a long moment before quietly making a copy of everything in Sarah's file. She'd been a school counselor for 12 years. She knew what federal involvement looked like, even when it was trying to stay hidden. Principal Morrison called Sarah to her office on day 31. The meeting had the veneer of concern, but the substance of intimidation. Morrison had closed the door, adjusted the blinds, and sat behind her desk with practiced authority. Sarah, we need to talk about the disruption you're causing. Multiple teachers have reported that you're making other students uncomfortable with your constant note-taking and photography. Sarah's hand had drifted to her jacket pocket. I'm just documenting my experience. You're creating a hostile environment for our student athletes. These are good kids from good families. Zach Carter has college scouts interested. Tyler Webb's uncle is the police chief.
These accusations you're making could ruin their futures. I haven't made any accusations. Sarah's voice remained level. I've just been collecting information. Morrison had leaned forward, her tone hardening. Let me be clear. If you continue down this path, I'll have no choice but to recommend your scholarship be revoked for causing disruption to the educational environment. Is that what you want? The tiny recording device in Sarah's pocket captured every word, including Morrison's unsubtle threat to punish a student for reporting harassment. The kind of statement that would look very bad under federal review. I understand, Sarah had said quietly. Thank you for clarifying the school's position. She'd left the office with one more piece of damning evidence. The confrontation everyone had been building toward happened after school on day 38. Sarah had stayed late in the gym, supposedly to make up the PE class she'd missed during the nurse's visit. The building was mostly empty, perfect privacy for what came next. Zach's crew had found her near the equipment room, 3-on-1, Marcus blocking the door, Tyler filming on his phone with that same smirk he'd worn during the cafeteria incident. Zach had grabbed Sarah's collar, mimicking that first confrontation 6 weeks earlier. But this time, there were no witnesses, no crowded cafeteria, no social pressure to show restraint. You're gonna transfer, Zach had said quietly, his grip tightening around the fabric near her throat. Or things are gonna get a lot worse. Understand? Sarah hadn't struggled, hadn't panicked. Instead, she'd positioned her body to face Tyler's camera directly, her defensive hand placement protecting her airway while keeping the confrontation visible to the recording device. When she spoke, her voice projected clearly toward Tyler's phone. This is the 4th time Zach Carter has physically assaulted me. Marcus Stone is blocking my exit. October 19th, 4:30 p.m., East Gym Equipment Area. She was creating a verbal record on their own video. Marcus grabbed Tyler's phone. Delete it now. Too late. Cloud backup had already synced. Sarah's jacket fell open during the struggle, revealing a body camera. Professional surveillance equipment. Red light active. Zach went pale. What the hell is that? Sarah pulled out a tablet, pulling up files that made all 3 freeze. Everything you've done for 6 weeks, every word, every witness, every threat, documented. The screen showed folders, Westridge High 2022 and Lincoln Academy 2023. How do you have files from Lincoln? Zach's voice cracked. Same pattern, different schools, Sarah said calmly. The gym doors opened. Ms. Chen, Mr. Harrison, Coach Reynolds, Officer Wade, and 2 federal agents entered. Sarah Mitchell works with our Office of Civil Rights investigating Title IX violations across Colorado districts, the lead investigator announced. The assembly revealed everything: 127 audio recordings, 89 videos, 312 photographs spanning 3 schools, 18 months. Arrests followed. Morrison resigned. Crawford faced criminal charges. Federal mandates came down district-wide. 3 months later, Sarah stood in Casper Central High, Wyoming. New identity, Emma Thompson. She watched a hockey captain shove a freshman, opened her laptop. Case Wyoming 2025-012. Some students take notes. Sarah Mitchell built cases. 1 school, 1 pattern, 1 piece of evidence at a time.
The story ends here, but there are many more videos waiting for you. So, if you enjoy, please take a moment to like, subscribe to to the Wrong Target Story channel. And don't forget to turn on the bell. See you in the next story.